Welcome to Bet On. I'm Kelly Stewart, your host. Tonight we're going to break down the NFL Divisional Round and talk a little bit about the National Championship with my man over here, Mr. Marco D'Angelo, at Marco in Vegas, and Gianni, the Greek Gambler, at Greek_Gambler on Twitter. I'm excited to talk about this National Championship game to start things off here. I'm shocked. 5.5. You guys are going to say, oh, of course you got a better line because that's what you guys love to do. I have a buddy on Twitter who got a 6.5. And I said, ask him how much money I'm allowed to bet on the 6.5. And I took it because why not? I don't know if I'm even going to need it, though. That's my question. There's so much to break down with this game here. This is an LSU team that the last time I bet against them was against Utah State. And they absolutely... for about the first quarter, I was like, yeah, Utah State's going to cover this game. And then they absolutely got throttled, and that was all she wrote. And I said, I'm going to take a couple steps back and look at this LSU team. And they've done nothing but cover numbers, win as outright underdogs to get to this national championship. But at this point, Marco, would you say maybe they're overvalued?
Oh, absolutely. And, I know you liked Clemson to win the national championship whenever we got to the Final Four. And, we talked about that. And I disagreed with you. Reason being, I liked Ohio State a lot in that matchup. And I still think Ohio State should have won that game. And
maybe if they were to play 2 out of 3 times Ohio State wins that game, no doubt about it. I understand.
It was
sometimes
one they
better
got
to be
through.
Lucky than good.
But now what we're seeing here is public likes to look at what they just saw. And what they just saw was an LSU team just take Oklahoma out behind the woodshed, beat the snot out of them, drag them out from behind the woodshed,
and
beat them again. Okay, all right. Because I never saw a coach, and I love, Lincoln Riley's done a great job at Oklahoma, but my God, there was not a single adjustment in that game. And at some point, you got to try to run the football to get your defense a breather.
I don't want to beat a dead horse here bagging on Lincoln Riley, but what do you say to that team at halftime? I mean, at that point in time, they basically just caved.
No, that's why the only thing that matters in that game is the first quarter. Take what you can out of that. After the first quarter, don't even look at the stat sheet. It's irrelevant. It's not going to help you with this game at all.
Okay.
I don't think so.
For, Ed Orgeron, for everything that I love about him and everything, he kept taking what they were giving him, and they kept running up the score. And what that did, well, it made this line balloon up to 5.5 where it's at right now. And the one thing that I will say, and why I'm jumping over onto your horse here and getting on the Clemson bandwagon, is because they did get through the Ohio State game. I did not think that they would. But the fashion in which they did, they were behind 16-0. They were able to make adjustments. That's, again, Dabo Swinney. You got to put him as the best college football coach. Saban had the reign for how long, but Dabo's passed him. He made the adjustments he needed to make, and he got his team in a position to win, and they did. Yes, there was a controversial call at the end that they got the break on, but that's what it is. But what it does, Ace, is when you look at this game, they've already been in a fight. They have withstood adversity. LSU hasn't really yet. What does LSU do if Clemson punches them in the face like Ohio State did to Clemson? Can LSU answer that? I'm not sure they can do that. I got to look at the 6.5. And if you remember, Kelly, when we first talked about it and you were taking Clemson to win the championship, just taking it at the futures odds, I said you'd be better off running a mechanical parlay. Well, now that this is 5.5, much different because nobody expected this line. Because when we were figuring out what the money lines were going to be, I make this game 3 at the most.
When I spoke with Murray at the Westgate, he said, look, in this scenario, Clemson -1, Clemson +1. Yeah. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to go and take the +230, and now I'm going, good grief. All right, VR. So I'm looking at the boxes here, right? They are basically a pick-em in so many things. They both run the same number of plays per game. The time of possession is the same. Clemson has the rushing yards edge, which is hilarious because LSU has been such a ground and pound team for all these years. Now all of a sudden they're airing the ball out. I see this as a very close game, coming down to a last-minute touchdown, a last-minute field goal, similar to what we saw against Ohio State. Sorry, Marco. The only edge that I can truly give LSU here is that stadium we talk about a lot. the Saints Stadium, Mercedes Dome. How much home field advantage can we give towards? Well, then what's built into this line?
That's where we're getting our value, Kelly, on the miscalculation of the home field advantage.
Okay.
It really is, coupled with that recency bias of what Marco touched on. Here's the bottom line. For a bettor like myself and most sharp bettors, this is the easiest bet for us to make because it's obvious. If you're a value bettor and your only job is to place good bets, then you already know what you have to do, and that's bet the Clemson side and know that even if you throw that ticket away on Monday night, you placed a hell of a bet. And here's why. Because of the simple fact, before they met in the playoffs, odds makers already told us what the betting line should be based on power ratings alone. And that was Clemson or LSU.
I mean, based on power ratings, Ohio State was number one for a really long time.
1.5 point favorite. And now, all of a sudden, that recency bias coupled with this home field advantage that I don't see. Because, listen, it's not like LSU plays there.
Right.
It's not like they know that stadium better than everyone else. And it's not like Lawrence hasn't been on that stage. They beat Alabama in the national championship.
As the same line, basically, last year.
The pressure hasn't bothered that kid. The pressure hasn't bothered Clemson. If they can't handle playing in that dome, nobody can. They're not playing in Baton Rouge. If it was in Baton Rouge, then I have to calculate what that home field advantage is, and maybe this 5.5 is justified. But there's no way it is there. Like, I get it. We could handicap it about Lawrence versus Burrow, about how great these NFL wide receivers are, about these defensive coordinators, about everything. That's all baked into the cake. We got to find something that isn't, and that's the home field advantage that they're over-quantifying, miscalculating, and the recency bias. So for me, knowing I could get a couple points better, that's the most I could ever hope for as a bettor. Knowing that I'm getting +5 on a game that should be plus, even if it should be +3. If I'm getting +5, 5.5, that's the most I could ever hope for. What's going to happen is going to happen. At least I know I got a good bet in my pocket. It's easy. Take Clemson, sprinkle, and the over. I don't think either defense is stopping anybody.
And to point out something that you said at the very beginning about that you know what the right bet is. Whether it wins or loses, you know what the right bet is. And as professional bettors,
that's all you could do.
Okay,
that's your job.
You're making a bet for today, but what you have to think about is the bet is for today. But if I made that exact same bet,
over
100 times, am I going to win 53 or more of those over 100?
At +5.5,
yes.
Clemson is plus EV.
Yes.
Now, that don't mean they're going to cash that ticket.
It's going to be Monday night is going to be a sample size of 1. But we're talking about
over the next 12 months of 2020, if you could find a bet like Clemson over and over again, that's your job as a bettor. Come December 31st, you'll be in that 1% that turned a profit because that's how they do it, by finding inefficiencies in the betting market rather than worrying about the outcome of a single result, which is there's so much randomness involved, a blown call, a fumble. There's so much that could affect the outcome of one game. So place good bets. Clemson's a good bet.
I like it. We're going to step out for a quick break. When we return, we're going to look at the 2 Saturday playoff games. I'm excited to talk about my favorite coach, Coach Zimmer. That's up next on Bet On It.
Get $25 in wager bucks added to your account after your first purchase at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com. This is just our way of saying thank you for joining the WagerTalk and Sports Memo family.
Did you know every Tuesday is $2 Tuesday at WagerTalk.com? We pick the hottest handicapper and offer his best bet for just $2. This is a great way to introduce yourself to the winning handicappers at WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com. Welcome back to Bet On It. It's time for us to take a deep dive into Saturday's playoff games. Let's start with the 4:30 slate. Minnesota at San Francisco. San Francisco is the 7-point favorite. Total is down to 44. This one's interesting. It opened 45.5. We'll get to the total here in a minute. Marco, we were talking in the green room, so I'm going to give out the hint. Marco and I are on different sides. I'm curious to see who VR is on in this one. I always like when he gets to play the tiebreaker. This is an interesting one here. You have this Vikings team that played damn near perfect football against the Saints, and that's how you go into the Superdome and you beat that Saints team. Now, I have to credit a lot to that red zone defense, which is what I said on Bleacher Report, that I thought that this team was going to make them kick field goals. Sure enough, Lutz, I think, missed 2 field goals in that game. Maybe it was just the first one there to save my first half under. Thank God. I did not sprinkle on the Minnesota Vikings here or last week, and I regretted it. I still don't know.
Always sprinkle.
I know.
You're the sprinkle queen.
I know. But this Vikings team this week, I'm still debating whether I'm going to sprinkle or not. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this matchup, and then I've got all my points that I'd like to just throw in there when we disagree. Sound good?
Well, I'm going on San Francisco, and I like them a lot here. We know, okay.
Like how much?
I like them a lot.
Are they going to make your best bet?
They're not going to make my best bet on the show, but they're
Okay.
going to make my card this weekend
Okay.
for my clients.
Perfect. All
I
right.
have a different game for the best bet here on the show. This is a spot where you start with last week. One of the things I said about the Saints, and when we did talk about the Vikings in that game, and we talked about Cook, he was going to have his good game. Everybody was worried about the shoulder and everything. I said, listen, he's had 2 weeks where he's had no contact. Now he's going to have a good game. The question's going to be, now that he's played a game, how's that shoulder after taking hits last week? Will there be a little bit of regression? Remember last year, now it's a different injury, but it's the same principle. Todd Gurley, first playoff game when they had the bye week and everything, and they rested him the week before, so he had a couple weeks off, had a good playoff game, and then he deteriorated every game afterwards in the playoffs. You might see some regression.
But he did get his team to the Super Bowl.
And they lost. Well, no, the referees got his team to the Super Bowl.
Fair.
Okay?
Fair point.
All right. And how about the poor Saints? They cannot get on the right side of a controversial call to save their lives. I mean, the guy did push off, and they didn't. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
But they were still going to get in there. Minnesota deserved the win. Don't get me wrong. And the Saints, that's what happens. I'm sorry. When you get a false sense of security, when you run up scores on teams that just can't play with you. Remember the Monday night game? Indianapolis was, okay, Indianapolis was no factor in that game at any point of the game. And because Drew Brees was going for records and everything else,
and they did the same thing. He was playing in the third quarter against the Panthers.
Yeah, it makes no sense. And now they faced an offense, okay? And we know Kirk Cousins, when he has the running game working, is a better quarterback to pass the football. Not going to happen this week. I know the 49ers defense did not play well down the stretch. They've been banged up, but they've had a week off to heal up some of those guys. Their defense is still better than the Saints. I like them to make life miserable for Kirk Cousins this week. And I think for Kirk Cousins, you know, he said all the right things after the game, but for him, you know that when he got off camera, it was like, yeah, take that. I can't win a big game. Let's see.
It wasn't a big game. It's not. It wasn't a prime time game.
It was a playoff game.
Sorry, it was a playoff game, but
it's a playoff game. He hadn't won a playoff game.
Yes, it wasn't a primetime game, which is why I wanted to make the joke.
Yeah.
And talk about that because this game's at 1:35 on the West Coast. So what's the problem?
Yeah, no problem there for him on that factor. But last week we talked about it, and I said Minnesota wouldn't have as much of a disadvantage as most teams going to the Dome. They play in a dome. Now they're playing outdoors. Not that weather's a difference, but they're used to playing in perfect conditions on a fast track. Now you're playing on grass outdoors. That's an advantage to San Francisco in 2 weeks to prepare. And let's be honest, and people are going to point out, well, Jimmy G hasn't played a playoff game yet. You know what? He hasn't, technically. The last game of the season was a playoff game. They were playing on the road in Seattle for the division title and the bye week. That is playoff experience, in my opinion.
All right, VR, whose side are you on?
Yeah, this is a dilemma game for me, and here's the reason.
Because of everything we've just argued back and forth about.
Right, for the last 5 minutes.
So that was a total.
I have no
Leave it
idea
a
what you
tie.
guys even like after that talk. I'm trying to get something out of it. Like, what side are they on? Here's the problem. Before the line even went up, I liked the Minnesota side. And when I saw that 6.5, it became worrisome because I figured the groups that I move for are going to bet the favorite. they're going to try to get the best of that 7 because the line's probably going to move in the direction of the team coming off the bye. And that's exactly what happened. The first buy order I get was -6.5 on San Francisco. Okay, getting the best of the 7. But then another group came in and took the -7 at even money. So I'm not sure if it was a move to get the best of a 7 or it's a legit move. And it's early in the week, so maybe we'll find out later, because I like the Minnesota side, and I actually wanted to bet Minnesota in a future instead of even betting them here. Because listen, if they win this game, they're a coin flip against Seattle or Green Bay. And then in the Super Bowl, how big of a dog are they going to be? Sure, against Baltimore, they'll be a significant dog. But if Baltimore doesn't make it there, they're not a big dog against anyone else. And if they're like 15-1 to win the Super Bowl at this point. So I thought Minnesota is even a future for me. So I like Minnesota here. They're very comparable when you look at the analytics, when you look at even the point differential they've had this season. And I like the way Minnesota's been playing. I do. I think there's some value there. But the guys I respect and have proven to me they're in that 1% that win long term, they bet San Fran -6.5.
All right, Vera, I'm going to stick with you. Tennessee, all over the board. Let's see, 9.5s, 9s even here in town, and a 10 at a square shop. Baltimore, total of 48. This is interesting. I don't have a big opinion on this game. I'd love to back the dog here. Ravens have covered 9 of their last 10. What's Henry going to be able to do against this defense? I just have so many questions that I don't know what to do. I lean towards the under in this game.
I like Tennessee. I bet the under already. I released the under in the first half to my subscriber, under 24. I gave it out, I believe, a 4% play. Don't quote me on that. 3 or 4% play. Bet under 24. I thought there was a lot of value there. We laid up to -125, even up to 130, I believe. Still a good bet. And I like Tennessee plus the points. Give me 9.5. Give me 10. I think there's some value there. I know Baltimore is the team to beat in the AFC. But we know in this round, points matter the most, unlike last week with the wild card round. Even though favorites have done well straight up, they haven't against the spread. And that's the difference, that in this divisional round, points actually matter. So I'll go ahead and take the 10 with Tennessee and under in the first half.
All right, Marco, you have the floor. Help me dissect this game.
As far as the game goes, I'm on the fence right now as far as the side. I can make a strong case for either side.
Of course.
The problem for me, I'm going to look at the total, and I'm going to disagree with you guys. I'm going to be out on an island by myself this week.
You're going to get a good number because I think it's going to keep coming down.
I think the knee-jerk reaction is people are going to look. They're going to see what Tennessee did last week.
Yeah, but I was on the over last week, and that was such an abomination second half. I mean, come on.
New England can't score. We've been talking about it for 6 weeks, okay? So don't overreact to the fact that they held them to 13 points. Don't overreact the week before that they held Houston to 14 points because Houston sat everybody.
True.
They didn't care. This is a defense that can be scored on. And the other perception is, well, both teams run the football.
And they're going to control the clock.
The clock's going to roll. The clock's going to... You know what? The clock, they are going to run the football.
Garoppolo's debut, remember that trend?
Yeah.
Debut quarterbacks don't do well in these playoffs.
Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah. They move the football. These teams run the football, but they run it efficiently. That sets up the passing game as well. They score quickly, these teams. They don't have any problems
I agree,
scoring.
and then trying to run the Wildcat with Mariota last week was an interesting dynamic, too, to kind of – I don't want to buy into that too much.
I could go off on stuff with the coaching decisions last week on some of the games. We could do an entire segment on me just ripping coaches. But in this one, I think you're going to see a lot of points in this one. And I also got to think Tennessee's a little fat and sassy from that win.
They probably are. Marco being fat and sassy over here himself. Time for us to take a quick break, but when we return, we're going to look at those Sunday NFL playoff games. A couple more I can't dissect, and one that is so close to being my best bet, but I don't think it's going to get there.
Looking for more NFL betting info? Then tune into the Presidential Address each week when WagerTalk's own Lawrence Presman, the Prez, along with Ralph Michaels, break down this week's entire NFL card. The show is available every week exclusively at WagerTalk TV. Conference play is in full swing in college basketball, and you can get all-access service through the Final Four from your favorite WagerTalk or Sports Memo capper for just $4.95. That's a $500 savings off the regular rate of $9.95 to receive every play in college basketball from your favorite capper. This includes all 5% plays that sell for $40 by themselves. Just use coupon code CBB495 at checkout.
Welcome back to Bet On It. Let's head to the Sunday action, break down the 2 NFL games. First up, the Texans at Kansas City. This one has gone up a few ticks itself. 10 here at Caesars, 9.5 across the board, total of 51. Of course, everybody likes the Chiefs and the over. Marco, I'll start with you.
I don't.
Nope.
This is a spot. First of all, could there have been a team that won last week that looked worse in winning than the Houston Texans?
No.
Okay? They were getting drilled for the entire game and then come back, get a touchdown, get a 2-point conversion, get another touchdown and a 2-point conversion, and then miraculously, give up the tying field goal at the end, which, again, we talk about coaches. When it was 4th and 27 for Buffalo at midfield, and it was on the other side of the 2-minute warning, and you had all 3 timeouts, why in God's name do you try 4th and 27 from midfield, basically midfield, rather than punt the ball, pin them back inside to 15, 10-yard line, whatever, use your 3 timeouts.
You really are mad at the coaches this week.
It was absolutely asinine, in my opinion. Okay, you've got a big.
I had a Texans ticket in my pocket that I did not feel good about for an entire game. So for that, at that very moment, you're right. At that point, I was like, okay.
And they did hold them 3, but then they had, they were in their territory because they started to drive at midfield. I look at this one. They got the win though, and I like teams that win ugly because nobody wants them. They got the monkey off their back. They won a game they weren't supposed to. That helps teams. And you want to talk about value? When we talked about the national championship game and we said, why is that line 5.5? Well, I'm going to ask you, VR, why in God's name is this line 9.5, 10 when these two teams played in the regular season and the line was 3.5 and
the team that lost, the team that lost is now a bigger favorite.
Why? How much has changed in these two teams?
Okay, so I'm going to play the
While
devil's
being
advocate.
negative in turnovers.
Yeah.
All right, listen, I like the Texans too, but I'm going to just read you my notes and why I think people are coming in the Chiefs. 9 of their last 10 they've covered at Arrowhead, including 6 straight. Mahomes is back to 100%. They're off a bye week. I'm just giving you things that I'm guessing while people are wanting to. Their defense has shown improvement. I know that defense is still absolutely terrible. Andy Reid off a bye, 22-3, and that's the only. And those are the
Andy
reasons
Reid
why.
versus Bill O'Brien is a huge mismatch. The last thing
You're paying for it. You're paying for it.
I'll let VR go, but the last thing I'll tell you when you said about that defense, yes, the last 6 weeks, the Kansas City Chiefs defense has played remarkable. Let me look here. Chargers, Oakland, New England, who Tom Brady can't throw the ball downfield. Denver can't throw the ball downfield. Chicago, Mitch Trubisky. Okay, yeah, well, they shut down some really good offenses.
Listen, Kansas City's, they're impressive this season, and here's why. There were 6 teams that were set with a season win total of 10 or higher, and that was New England, New Orleans, the Rams, KC, Philadelphia, and the Chargers. The only one still standing is Kansas City out of all those teams. Everyone else is a surprise, more or less, at least based on their season win total. So in the AFC, it's them and Baltimore. It looks like that's the strongest side. The good news for Kansas City fans is this, that even though in the divisional round points matter the most, and we touched on last week in the wild card round, just pick the winner. If you look at since 2015, we'll look at home teams of 7 or more points, favored by 7 or more, have won 14 of 17 games. So they're 14-3 straight up. They rarely lose straight up. But they're only 6-9-2 against the spread, less than 40% ATS. So teams in this spot, when you're forced to pay for it, they haven't been profitable. And KC at -8 where it opened, I can see getting behind it, but at double digits, I can't. And they even did a good job of defending the teaser, so it's not even really bettable. I could tell you this, a sharp group that I respect bet the over. They went over 49. I see no reason to disagree with this. They put up 55 last time. The only thing that worries me is they adjusted down from that total. It was 54.5 in that first game, and it's lower now, even though
Playoffs.
That's why, exactly.
Playoffs.
That's why. So, that's why I didn't give it out to my guys. And it moved to 51, so, a lot of that 49 value is gone, obviously. I'm not going to have him bet it now at 51 if I could have gave it to him at 49. But I think the over is the way to go. And again, I think Kansas City should be able to get it done. The best regular season team in all of football should get it done.
All right. Marco, Seattle, now a 4-point underdog at Lambeau Field. Total of 47. This looks like a field goal type game. I don't want to be involved on the side, but I really, really like the under here. That Packers pass rush is going to be one of the more difficult ones that Russell Wilson has seen all year. They've failed, by the way, Seahawks failed to cover their last 5 at Lambeau. I don't know how relevant that is, but just a little side note.
For me, I look at this one. This is the toughest game of the 4.
I agree.
I look at Seattle and, I see Russell Wilson getting points, and I want to take it, okay? Then you look at Aaron Rodgers and Lambeau, and there's a lot of mystique about Lambeau and everything. McCown last week came in off the bench. He was 18 of 24. He just couldn't punch him in the end zone. They had 3 field goals, and they had 2 other drives that would have been field goals if not for the game situation. They were down 8. They bypassed the field goals and, had to try for the touchdown. I'm not sold on either team here. This should be the overachiever bowl, because if you look at the 2 teams, their stats do not indicate what their records are. So if I'm up in the air in a game, I'm going to lean to the dog. And Seattle, all of their games finish, 8 points or less, it seems. We're getting 4 here. Let's take a shot with Seattle, but I'll say it. This is my weakest of the 4.
All right, VR, you got about a minute left here. Tell me what your thoughts are on this matchup.
I have a stake on the Seattle side because one of the groups I provide accounts for, they bet Seattle at +4. I can't disagree with it. I haven't confirmed it yet to share it with my subscribers. I don't think that line's going to move way down, so that's why there was no rush. I knew I have till a couple days to decide. The reason I do think the Seattle side may offer some value quickly is they're not getting any credit for beating Philadelphia because of the quarterback situation of Carson Wentz going down. And I think because of that, their stock was really high going into that Philadelphia game, but it's kind of come down a little bit off that win.
Probably my Twitter reminding every single one of those Seattle backers that they shouldn't have cashed a ticket because Ja'Javion Clowney had a bad hit. But I just wanted to bring them back down to earth because I was really mad about that one. But, hey, we live to bet another day. And I really like this under here. I think Seattle is one of the more penalized teams in the NFL, and I think that continues this week again in Lambeau, so we'll see how that correlates to no points being scored. Great stuff from these guys. Now it is time to bring in our resident stat man, Mr. Ralph Michaels. I'm really excited to see what Ralph has dug up for us for this divisional weekend. Welcome back to Bet On It. My man, Mr. Ralph Michaels, to the right of me. Hi.
Hey, Kel.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
You brought me a laundry list. So I'm going to let you get started. If you guys aren't following Ralph, at CalSportsLV, coming in clutch, the NBA sheet last night, double winner for me on OKC. Yeah. So shout out to Ralph for that one.
A little TNA for the division round here before we get to the championship round. First, I want to mention numbers there just so people know what to expect. In this round, it's unique because the 1 and 2 seeds have a bye and the opposite seeds played last week. So since 2013, I wanted to use the fair sample size. The home team has gone 19-5, but only 11-12-1 against the spread. So rust versus rest is always the question. It's been just about 500. The over-under's gone 13-11. I will say this, though. Home teams in this round, if you tease them, it doesn't matter what the line has been. The home team has gone 21-3 on a 6-point teaser.
Okay, home team teaser, 23-1 on a 6-point teaser.
21-3.
21. I wrote down 21-3.
So yeah, if you just tease the home teams, it's been very successful regardless of the line. So there is that rust versus rest, and a lot of times you're paying a premium price because of the adjustment. Now, week 19, that's this week, the division round. Home favorites up to 6 have gone 6-4-2 against the spread. Home favorites of 9.5 or more have gone 5-0 against the spread.
Wow. And
In between,
2 of those this week.
from 6.5 to 9, they've gone 2-11 against the spread. So small home favorites and big home favorites have done well. In that touchdown zone, they have gone 2-11 against the spread. So the obvious question. Teams off upset wins, Tennessee and Minnesota. We want to know how they've done. If the home team is facing an opponent off an upset win, like Minnesota and Tennessee, the home team has gone 9-4 straight up, but the team that pulled the upset has gone 9-4 against the spread. So the home team has gone 4-9 ATS. Home team with the visitor off an upset win like Tennessee that won by 7 or more like Tennessee did, those totals have gone 2-9 over under. Couple more team specifics. Teams that beat the Super Bowl champ, 1-13 straight up, 2-12 ATS. That's Tennessee beating New England. Now, I think that's more an anomaly. I don't put a lot into it because you're in the playoffs. You know, during the regular season, maybe week 1 or 2, if you beat the regular season champs, that's something more. But again, it has to be noted because it is a record. And how about this? This one shocked the heck out of me. Playoff teams that won 4 or fewer games the year before. Since 2001.
Oh, I saw this one on Twitter.
4-20 ATS. And if they're a favorite or a dog up to 7, 1-16-1 against the spread. And that clearly is San Francisco in that trend.
How much weight would that trend be? So we'll get to my best bet here at the end of the show, which I already alluded to.
The NFL's different lately. You've had players go, and Garoppolo got injured, so it's not the same 4-win team as it was. And one last note, we know Seattle's a historic team winning 8 road games this year. We know Seattle's a historic team winning 11 one-score games this year. That's tied for the most in the NFL. Since 2011, if you just teased every Seattle playoff game, 15-1.
Woo! Great stuff from Ralph Michaels. Now it's time for us to take a quick break. When we return, it's time for our NFL teasers and our best bets of the week.
Guys, we are 21-11, the last 32 in football. This weekend, I'm releasing my 5% playoff game of the month. I love one game this weekend. In fact, it will be my biggest bet I make of the playoffs. Join me, and I'll give you a bonus play in playoff action with it. We have cashed 65% of our football bets over the last month, and now it's time for the biggest play of the month. Go to my homepage at WagerTalk.com now to sign up.
Be sure to check out Teddy Covers and Ralph Michaels on their new show, WagerTalk, each and every weekday on the Sports Grid TV network, live at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, noon Pacific. This is your daily Sports Central for gamblers, a full hour of loaded sports betting content. Check it out for free every weekday.
Welcome back. Now that we have broke down the 4 divisional games and the national championship, I think it's time for those teasers this week, guys. They've been doing.
Please go to me first with it.
You want me to? Okay. They've been doing really well, so I look forward to the segment. They kind of sometimes on Sunday kind of bail you out. You hit your nice little 2-team teaser, and it all is right again in the world because even if you didn't win that side, you got that nice little cushion. So VR.
Except Philadelphia 7.5 last week. I had it. That was.
Why, you guys? Why does he do this to me? Like he's so nice to me on the internet with trolls, and then in real life he's like, zing.
That was my 5% last week, Philadelphia.
That was rough.
And on a teaser, so not good.
Okay.
All right, since there's
VR's like, thanks, Mark.
I've been saying it all year, like a broken record, that you tease the numbers. And there's only one tease that you can do that with, pretty much. San Francisco with Seattle, because you're getting San Francisco down to a pick-em and Seattle up through 7 and up to a double digit. That's the obvious, so I can't give you that because that's the only teaser of the weekend. But you're going to hear arguments of tease it down to 6.5 and use 6.5 and 7-point teasers, even from some sharp guys. And there may be an argument for that because in the playoffs, we know lines could be tighter. And I can tell you for certainty in the final round next week, teasers should be minus 160, 170. So there's a ton of value to use teasers next week. I haven't seen the data in front of me to tell me that it's plus EV this week to use a 7-point teaser Otherwise, I'd be looking at teams in double-digit favorites. I can't do that. So if we're looking at negative EV, I might as well give you something that I like, and those are the totals. And you're going to say there's no value in teasing totals. Well, there's no value in doing 7-point teasers either, unless you can prove to me in the playoffs there is. And I haven't seen the data to confirm that exactly yet. So again, we're going to tease Tennessee, Baltimore under from 47 up to 53. So we're going under 53, and Houston, KC over 45, taking that total down. Teasing totals.
You're going to be busy.
I'm not going to bet it.
I was gonna say,
You're going to be busy on Twitter.
I knew it.
I'm not betting it. It's not like I'm going to bet it, but that's what I like. If someone held a gun to my head and said, if you don't hit your teaser today, this gun goes off, that would be the teaser I give them. But I'm not betting it, so you know.
Because Marco bet the square teaser that you just told.
now, your brains are spread out. You just blown up.
I'm forced.
All that red in the back.
I'm forced here.
So now I'm going to be
the most obvious teaser. Okay.
SpongeBob SquarePants here with my teaser. And
it's probably the right thing, though. It probably is, Marco.
It is, because I have to do, and we talked about it, if you do what is the right thing in plus EV 100 times, you're going to win more long term. The right move here is to tease San Francisco down, and then the tricky one is the Seattle. And what I'm doing is I'm going to go with the 6.5-point teaser. So you're laying a little more juice, but you're not laying as much juice as you would with a 7-point teaser. The 6.5 gets us over the 10. Or we get to 10.5. What's the big deal? Well, I would rather win a bet than push the bet, and 10 is a number that, especially in this game with Seattle, as I talked about it when we broke the game down, 13 of their 17 games this year have been decided by 8 points or less. 13 of 17.
No, that's the obvious teaser, and I think a lot of people aren't going to be betting that teaser. They're going to be looking to tease Baltimore and
Kansas City.
And KC is going to be in the majority of teasers. That for certainty.
Absolutely, and that's why the Kansas City. One of the reasons why they pumped that line a little bit more than they should have, because we said that there's value there. But that's the obvious teaser for me. I see San Francisco winning. I don't see Minnesota winning 2 playoff games in a row on the road, and I just don't see Seattle getting blown out. It can happen in Lambeau. As I said when we broke that game down, that's the toughest game I had. But the thing is, with this Green Bay defense and the way the offense has not exploded this year, they've let teams hang around, and anytime you got Russell Wilson there, back door is always going to be open for you.
And before they call me square for my totals teaser, I turned profit last year. I turned profit the year before that. Did you?
Okay.
Answer that question honestly.
This has been fun. I knew we should have just nixed the teaser segment today.
Today, it's tough.
I was looking, I was like, this is too tough, but that's
Give
okay.
us yours. What's yours?
I'm not betting a teaser this week. Are you kidding? My teaser
one.
had the Eagles in it last week.
That's the right answer.
You know why we had a teaser this week? Because that's just my statement of. Remember back
no,
when
I'm
Johnny
glad we had
to kill
it.
the teaser segment back in
because
week 3?
You gave the one.
No, Johnny, we're having a teaser.
No, because this is actionable info that you said there's only one teaser this week. Either you play it, or if you like it, or leave it alone.
All right, it's best bet time. I'm tired of arguing with you guys about teasers.
Oh yeah, best bets.
Oh yeah, that's the most important part of the show. VR, why do you think everybody's out here watching us?
Well, apparently not, because I hit the best bet and they were still complaining on Twitter last week.
Well, you guys both hit your best bets last week, and I appreciate you guys giving that extra little nudge so that I would bet both of them as well.
Yeah, but you like the same sides. It's just we liked Philly too.
Yeah, well.
We all had Philly.
Yeah, you had Minnesota too. You had the same sides.
Speaking of Minnesota, I think they're going to be my best bet again this week. Like I said, I really liked that under in the Packers game.
You like them that much, please, for me, sprinkle.
This time?
Please.
Good
Or if not sprinkle, put something on them a future, please.
Okay.
Even if it's $50 for them to win the Super Bowl. If you're betting them this week, bet a future with them. Please.
Or sprinkle on the money line.
Please.
I'll sprinkle a little bit on the money line. I think it's worthwhile. Bottom line, Niners don't have a great home field advantage. 3-4-1 against the spread this season. We touched on that defense, especially in the red zone. Healthy Cook, plus Thielen, plus a strong front seven. Little cherry on top. 44-19-1. My favorite coach. Coach Zimmer versus non-divisional teams. I like it. Minnesota defense, plus the points. I'll take Vikings, plus 7. Marco, your best bet, please.
You do love Coach Zimmer.
I do.
All right. I'm going to go to the Houston-Kansas City game. We talked about the game in the earlier segment where I took Houston plus the points. Well, I'm going to have two plays in this one. I'm going to also have the over in this one. I'm going to use the over as my best bet. One of the things, as I said, Houston couldn't look any worse last week in their win. People are down on them. What impressed me was Buffalo has a top 5 defense.
Yeah.
Okay? They rushed the football last week for 141 yards against that top 5 defense. And Deshaun Watson, not a lot of experience in playoff action and everything. He connected on 20 of 25 passes. It wasn't a ton of yards, but it was 219 yards. And most of that came in the final 3 quarters because the first quarter of that game, they did absolutely nothing, Houston did. So they got the offense going. Now, as I belabored the point, Kansas City's defense is playing well. It's a little bit misleading. Yes, they're healthier now than they were at the beginning of the season, but it is also a big part of who they played. You had the Chargers twice in that segment, and we know Phillip Rivers was having problems the second half of the season. You had Oakland, who was atrocious down the stretch. New England, Tom Brady, couldn't get the ball going downfield. And then Denver and Chicago were teams that were offensively challenged all year. I'm not sold on it. I think Houston, just like that first game, will be able to score points. And if you remember in the first game with Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes was playing on a sore ankle in that game. He played, and they still put up 24 points in that game. He didn't have all of his mobility, and that is a big asset to him in his style. And the Houston defense, they got Watt back last week, but they still have injuries on that defense. They gave up a lot of points in that first couple series from Buffalo. Those were the best plays scripted. They set them up with all the misdirection stuff. And then they just went to sleep after that. Kansas City won't go to sleep. They're going to keep rolling.
All right,
Over.
VR. I'd love to hear who your best bet is this weekend. Again, congrats on cashing that Vikings. No sweat last week.
At all.
I know you.
They gave them. I saved even $40. Saved them $40 for free. I gave them the 5%er, baby.
And you sprinkled.
Yeah,
Kelly,
I did.
We're going to take her title.
I don't.
Sprinkle Queen.
Listen, I'm still disappointed in myself.
I'm dropping bomb.
I'm going to be dropping a
Buffalo against Temple.
Buffalo against Temple.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Saturday, the bomb's dropping, and it will be on the Tennessee-Baltimore game. And the reason I'm going to be on the Tennessee Titans now with the seasoned playoff vet in Tannehill, he was able to overcome that trend of debuting quarterbacks in New England. To me, that is so impressive to do that. All the pressure's on Baltimore. Tennessee this is a free roll for them to get past that team. And as good as Baltimore has looked, again, you're not playing for style points. And if you look at the total, I already told you we bet under in the first half, under 24. Share information with other movers, and I could tell you for certainty there's other groups that are on under 48, under 47.5, under 47 for the game. So guys that win long-term like this to be a low-scoring game. Now, they could score 60 points, obviously, but at least the market is reflecting that sharp money on the under. So I'm getting double digits with a team on a free roll in a game that's expected to be lower scoring. It's obvious for me. I mean, again, Baltimore's the team to beat. We know that going in, but you're paying a heavy premium. And I already showed you that historically in this round, even against these home teams, when they're given this many points, even when they win the game, they don't do too well against the spread. So give me double digits with Tennessee, and hopefully we cash 2 on that game.
Great. So we like every single underdog this weekend, and of course I'm going to get eaten alive for Twitter on that one.
I have a favorite on one of mine.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah, I even gave props to KC that they could be live.
Oh my goodness, I can't wait. All right, guys, we have a few minutes left. So one of the segments that we always get asked to do is ask the experts. So I have a couple of questions. VR at Calfi 61.
Wiz, my man.
Yeah, right. Basically, will the Vikings short week and travel to the West Coast have an effect on how you handicap the game?
Well, that kind of stuff is baked into the cake. I mean, it's great to discuss. It's awesome for shows and sports radio and all that. But you're not going to get an edge on information like that. I mean, everyone knows it's a short week for them. Everyone knows the The other team has a bye week. We know the advantages of those teams that have been off. So I don't think so. I don't see how you could really gain an edge to bet it one way or another. I think, again, that's factored into the line.
All right, Marco, at GTO Rain Man, I believe yards per play differential is used by many handicappers. What are your thoughts on this, and what do you believe the most important data points are for handicapping a game?
I agree. I like to use yards per play a lot, but what you've got to take into consideration with yards per play is factor in strength of schedule. Because if you've got a team that's had, a bottom 5 schedule strength, their numbers are going to be better. They should be better, or you're not a good team. I like to see if you've got stuff where you find an edge and you've got the other team played a tougher schedule, then I put more emphasis on that. And it's
what you got. That's a great question. What you got to be cautious about, stats like that, data like that, is that once it's concluded to be predictive, it becomes factored into the betting line. So once it gets out there,
so you're saying once a handicapper finds an edge, the bookmakers
once
just
it's
adjust.
out, you can only take advantage of it for so long. And once it's out there, then it's no longer valuable. That's gone. You're not getting any advantage for it. Like if you don't have a data set that's proprietary, like you see, Warren Sharp, that early down success rate.
Yes.
He came up with a proprietary data that is predictive. That is a way to take advantage of the betting market. Now, everyone's talking about it. That'll be factored into the price, and in a little bit, he won't be able to take advantage of it. So it's a great
And this is why
key.
they always say that, if you're such this great bettor, why aren't you on Twitter? Why aren't you on TV? It's because you're sitting there cashing your checks.
You're keeping the proprietary shit to yourself. Let's be honest. I read 50 different card counting books, and until you go out there and practice it, and you realize there's those few things everyone doesn't tell you that you have to learn, that they keep to themselves. Why are you going to give up your edge?
That's a good point. Why are you going to give up your edge? We're going to go out and step out for a quick break. But when we return, it's going to be our final thoughts on this week's divisional action.
I'm Gianni, the Greek Karalis. With all the attention on the NFL playoffs right now, there's a lot of value in hoops, both NBA and college basketball. Over the last 365 days, I've given out 119 premiums at WagerTalk in college basketball. We've hit 63%, won almost 85%. So what I'm going to do is get you on board for the entire college basketball season. Just use the special code below. You'll get it for $4.95. Again, 63% on 119 premiums in college basketball. It'll only get better from here. Join me for the rest of the season.
Hey guys, I'm Lawrence Presman, the Prez, co-founder of WagerTalk. I'm excited that you're all watching Bet On It. Just want to tell you guys about our hockey show, Puck Time. It's honestly the best show that I do all week. We do it with all of the hockey talent over at WagerTalk and Sports Memo, from Alex B. Smith to Dave Koken, Carmine Bianco, Buster Sports, myself, and Andrew McGinnis. Different co-hosts every day. It's hockey all the time, and it's one of the best sports to bet on, and certainly the most exciting sport to watch. Check us out 2 p.m. Eastern every day, Monday to Friday, at WagerTalk TV.
All right, we're back for your favorite part of the show. That's right, it's the recap segment. Before we leave you for the evening, let's start off with the national championship game. I know we still have plenty of time to get to this one, but we got Clemson plus 5.5 all the way across the board. Guys, line chop, there are some, we'll call them local guys, offering better numbers, so make sure you get the best number you can get on the Clemson Tigers. And as VR always likes to say, don't forget to sprinkle a little bit on that money line. Hopefully they make it as easy for me this year as they did last year. Let's move over to the Saturday NFL slate. Minnesota at San Francisco. We got a house divided over here. Marco on an island by himself, far, far away in San Francisco. Well, VR leans towards Minnesota. I like the Vikings. We'll get to that one just a little bit more here in a minute. Tennessee at Baltimore. Lots of totals in this one. Marco likes the over in this one, and VR likes the first half under 24. This one's now down to 23.5, so make sure you guys are shopping around. Houston at Kansas City on Sunday. This one's interesting. If you can get a 10 on Houston, grab it because I see some across the board. Marco and I are in agreement there. VR likes the over in this one, as do I. It makes a lot of sense. These guys put up a compelling point. And last but not least, Seattle getting the Sunday night late game again. This time they have to travel to Lambeau Field. Pretty much a consensus that everybody likes Seattle here. I don't think I'm going to play the side. I mentioned in this one that I do lean towards the under here, and we'll probably get to the window with that one. All right, guys, you have any final thoughts on this week's NFL action? During our break, I was reading our YouTube comments.
Yeah. Did we have the best bets?
Oh, we didn't put up the best bets. You know, it's been one of those
teasers.
I was a little disappointed. I saw like a little bashing, but I didn't get enough. Like I thought they would hate me more. I'm the 1%. Like you're the 99% supposed to hate me.
We got to get to the.
You're not supposed to like me.
Teasers that nobody's going to play. Let's put those up. Seattle and San Francisco. That's a 6.5.
They were making fun of my teasers on that stuff, and I've said since week 1 that I don't bet teasers. Oh. Like, don't they listen?
But here, no, they don't listen, and they shouldn't listen to this one either because you're not supposed to tease totals. But I do agree with VR. He's giving you guys his teaser on this one. Why? Because he likes the under and he likes the over. And both lines have already moved way too much for anybody to actually probably bet it. Marco's best bet, the over in the Kansas City-Houston game. VR likes the Titans. Kelly likes the Vikings. Go figure. Coach Z coming in clutch for me. Hope you guys enjoyed tonight's show as much as we did doing it. From Marco, Gianni, Ralph, and myself, good luck. And until next week, let's bet on it.